Hi, this is Jeff Mangus with Ghostwriting USA. Hope everyone's doing great out there in social media land. I'm so excited to be here. This is the fifth edition of the Ghostwriting USA podcast and video channel. I'm really excited about bringing the show to you and talking in depth about ghostwriting and hiring a ghostwriter that fits you and your book. My show, as you know, if you are just tuning in, my show is aimed toward any new author or anyone uh, that has an idea for a book, or someone who has written a book but maybe is looking to hire another ghostwriter, or maybe you've never hired a ghostwriter before in your entire life, and you have a book idea, you have something exciting that you want to say, and you want to bring a book into the world. Um, I'm here to help you get through the process and understand what you're getting into by hiring a ghostwriter, being upfront, straight up, and give you the lowdown and not a sales pitch or long-winded things. Um, so I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the topic today. The topic today is the real process of ghostwriting. The process. So once you hire a ghostwriter, or the initial meeting and initial basically contact with someone you think could possibly write your book. Now I will say that yes, I am in the business to write books for authors, but my show, I do my best to not just focus on me, and there's a reason for that, because I agree and understand that I am not the perfect fit for every author and or anyone that has a book out there. You know, there's personalities, there's things we gotta, mesh, and vice versa. And not every author is the same, and a good client for me, because working with a book and writing a book, it takes time. It takes a process, and so you're working together over a few months. A good book usually lasts. A good book written takes about 3 months, sometimes 6 months, even up to a year or longer. I talk about it a lot of times. I work with an author for 2 years on a book straight. We were diligent, working weekly. It was really a great process and journey to be on that with him, but our personalities meshed real well together. Um, so this is really the reason for my show, is to help you not settle on someone who's not just cheap or is in your budget. Sometimes you get, it's the old adage, you get what you pay for. If you find a cheap writer, in most instances, you're going to get cheap writing. Now, I'm not trying to offend anyone out there or anyone out there that writes for cheap. That's your prerogative. But a good professional ghostwriter like myself, um, I'm not overly expensive, but I'm also not cheap. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's going to give you quality, professional, sellable manuscripts, and work with you throughout the entire process to get your book into publication. That's part of the process that I do with my services. But I'm not here to talk about me all the time. What I'm here to do is to educate anyone out there that has a book idea on how to hire a ghostwriter, what to understand, what to look for, and what red flags to look for. How to understand who you don't want to hire. So, but today's topic is called the real process of ghostwriting. And what I mean by that, again, I talk to a lot of authors, by email, via phone. I get a lot of questions, and I love hearing, people's book ideas and what they want to write about. It's interesting to meet new people. Um, but every time I speak to someone, one of the main questions pops up is about the process. What is the process? They don't understand how it works. And, being more specific, I get more questions about how long it takes to write a book and the process. People want to know if they can get one done quickly, or how long it's going to take. And I always inform them at least plan for 3 months and budget up to 6 months. This is something that, you just got to take to heart with that. But my intake on clients, um, I have a specific process, and this process is streamlined and is honestly a simple process that allows you, the author, to be able to keep your lifestyle, keep your job, keep your activities, keep your family intact with you being around them while the work is being done by me or a ghostwriter that you hire. So for me, I work hard on my books. I work diligently on an author's book. I'm all in 100%. I do not procrastinate and I get things done. It's really, really important for that to happen and to get that thing started. So let's talk about my ghostwriting process. Now, not every ghostwriter out there works the same way. Let me say that up front. Not everyone works the same way. I have found this process to work for me and my clients. And so far, I've written 16 successful books, and the process has worked flawlessly with each one. So when I first meet a client or first talk to a client, um, and we say we get the contract all signed up and done, the first thing we do is we have initial book consultation. It's an interview. I call it a kickstart review of the book. And I meet with the author and we go over, when I say meet, we either talk on the phone or we hop on Zoom. I've been using Zoom for a long, long time, even before COVID. And it's a great system. But I make no, let me disclaim that I don't make any money from Zoom for saying that. So, but I meet the author and we meet either online or through the phone, and we discuss the basic details of their idea for their book. We basically make a mock outlining, and I get some insight into how I can help them and help the author make the book a reality. It's basically a plan. Um, Books, I've said it multiple times, and I'll keep saying it. Writing a book is just like starting a business. You must have a business plan for your book. So to get it started, you got to have these details and this outline and basically a brainstorm of the insight into what the author visions the book to be. That's the first step. Initial book consultation, a quick start review, whatever, the other ghostwriters call it, but this is probably the norm for looking to hire a ghostwriter is, you'll have initial consultation with that person. The second aspect of my process is I like to get things started on the right foot. What that means is, being a ghostwriter, there's a high level of confidentiality that must be presented and must be upheld. So to get things started on the right foot with me, I always send over non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. This is something I feel like needs to be taken care of before anything happens. And I feel more comfortable that way, having a non-disclosure agreement in place to let you know that your information is held in confidence, and I put it in writing. And that NDA is there to protect both parties. And I hold as a ghostwriter confidentiality in the highest regard. It's probably the most important part of my job is to remain behind the scenes and keep things private. So nothing's disclosed on social media, nothing's disclosed through email, nothing is talked about. And what the author tells me, that is private information that goes into files and that belongs to the author and not me. So getting a non-disclosure agreement is something, if you're hiring a ghostwriter, you want to think about. Now, many ghostwriters do have non-disclosure agreements, and I recommend that if you do receive one, even from myself, have someone look it over. Non-disclosure agreements are pretty straightforward, but it is still a legal document that you're signing. So I advise, again, I'm not an attorney, but I do advise having someone at least look at it if you feel comfortable. Don't feel comfortable signing it without having a professional look at it, then do that. I encourage you to do that. But if you're good with it and you read through it and it protects you, then sign it and then get things started. So that's the second step in my process is non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. So once we have the NDA in place, the next step is discussion of the terms. And what I mean by that is the terms of uh, what everyone's going to expect, timelines, um, milestones, and also fees and payments and all things like that. So after the NDAs are signed, I like to uh, make an outline, or I call we'll get into that next, but I call it a statement of work, which is basically outlining the pertinent terms of the book. And as far as length of the book, word count, what size of the book, what direction you want to go with traditional publishing or self-publishing, uh, payments and fees and timelines. It's all written in writing. So everyone is on the same page and knows what to expect and to fulfill a contract. So once we agree on those terms, after the step, like I mentioned, is called a statement of work. This is an actual an agreement uh, outlining all of those terms, pertinent terms that we have agreed upon, putting them all in writing, and putting it all together. And I deliver this statement of work to the client with all those terms and agreed upon. Um, Allow the client to read through it, understand all the milestones, the timelines, the fees, the book, what we're talking about, and then they sign it, and I sign it, and everyone gets a copy. So there's the housekeeping part. The initial book consultation, when I meet a new author, I send over a non-disclosure agreement, and then the next step is we discuss terms and figure it all out. And then if everyone's good with the terms, then I send over an official statement of work, an SOW, to get signed to start the work. Once everything is signed, the next step in my process is we set up the first online Kickstart book meeting. And this Kickstart meeting is a little different because we've agreed upon a time and place, we've agreed upon terms, and we know that there's a book going to happen. So now we begin the brainstorming of the book, the overview of the book, the outline of the subjects. This is the core and foundation of the book. Now, I do want to say that table of contents and the outline of the book, your initial outline probably will change as the book is being written. Things are discovered, new things added. It probably will change, but ultimately you have to have this foundation for your book. So, and the outline of the book, including topics, subject matter, and to start building a table of contents. I mean, you can't build a house without a foundation, and this is the critical step in the ghostwriting process, is having the whole book outlined, at least an overview of the direction for each chapter and where the book's going to start and where the book's going to end. This is really, really important. So the next step after the initial book meeting and Kickstart review, we sit down again and schedule a meeting and interview for the first chapter. I like to work chapter by chapter. To me, it makes the most sense. What I like to do is write the first chapter, and I call it the Franken draft. And that draft is it's not so ugly that you can't stand it, but that first draft is a foundation, just like it allows the author a bed to support the author so they can add their pertinent information. But that first meeting is after I write that first chapter, we meet and we sit down and I record the notes, I transcribe the notes, I study the video, I study voice, study diction and style. And any good ghostwriter out there should be doing the very same thing and studying you and how you speak, words that you use, inflections that you use. This is the critical aspect to starting your book. So once that first chapter is being written, and that first draft is written, I send it over for author review. The author, I ask the author to add their information to that chapter. Then we chisel away at that chapter until the author is completely um, okay, is totally loves that first chapter. We won't go further, and that's the way I work because um, there's no sense in writing a full book and then the author hate it. I can't even imagine a nightmare like that. And I'm sure there have been many instances where an author just turns a ghostwriter loose and then says, "Send me the book." I personally don't work that way, and I ask any author that I interview about that, and I let them know up front, this is the way I work, and it's the best way for you, because that way, by the time you get through the end of the book, you're confident as the author that the information in each chapter is exactly how you want it. That is important. You don't want to get to chapter 10 if you're at the end of your book, and suddenly you read through it and you hate it and you think it's terrible, it doesn't sound like you, then you've wasted a lot of time and a lot of money, possibly, and energy. So we don't want that. So if you're looking, when you're talking to a ghostwriter, ask them about this type of process. Um, but my process, after that, I write that chapter, I send it back to the author for the revisions, like I said. And then once I get those revisions and that information, I finish writing the first chapter and I clean it up and I send it back over for final review, for final revisions and any other ideas. And then once all that is inputted, I clean it up and then everyone knows what's in that chapter. Then we move on to the next chapter. The next chapter, again, that's the next step, as we start writing the second and third and on and on. We write those chapters, and each one is done the exact same way. We rewrite, revise, send back and forth until the author is completely satisfied and it's all final. So that's part of the process. The next step is moving on to the next chapters and keep going until you have a final manuscript that's completely agreed upon. The author is perfectly fine with it, and the final manuscript, excuse me, is delivered to the author. If the author needs self-publishing help, that's part of the step and process. Is I help authors get their book published on their own. I help them publish wide. I help them publish on Amazon and work through that process, either through Kindle or getting the book actually completely done. I work with an author through that to help them for publication. If an author is doing traditional publishing, that's something that's decided on up front, and going after traditional publisher, excuse me, there must be a book proposal written. So that is another discussion and another negotiation in the process if a book proposal is needed or necessary. But if it is, I negotiate that as a statement of work as well, a separate one, and then write that book proposal to perfection so we can pitch it to literary agents and any traditional publisher out there that you're pursuing. But again, that's a separate assignment in terms and fees. But hopefully this process is maybe give you a little more insight into how you work with a ghostwriter once you hire them, what to look for when you first talk to one. And if you are here and you're interested in talking to me about writing your book, I would love to talk to you about that. You can visit me at ghostwritingusa.com, or you can email me at any time at ghostwriterusa and the number 1 at gmail.com. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to the Ghostwriting USA podcast and video channel. I really appreciate your support, and please share this channel. And if you are here and new and like to subscribe, please click below, and you get every week insight into ghostwriting and the hiring of a ghostwriter. Thanks again. I look forward to talking to you. Have a great day.